part of what separates us from just about every single real estate investment company that we know is that we're very mission minded and we believe in influencing and feeding nations. And so today is going to be a combination of an update, but also of a new goal, a new objective. And so what I'd like to start is, for those of you who probably read the book or have a copy of the book, I wrote a book a while back just called Investing with a Purpose. And the whole idea behind it was kind of sharing our heart of being able to take an investment business that most people look at from the standpoint of, I am doing this to make money for myself, and really just transcending being selfish and thinking about just you, and using the profits in order to actually make an impact around the world, not just locally, but abroad, everywhere. Part of that premise is basically thinking about something that is bigger than you, having a bigger why, having a purpose, and then utilizing not the seeds. And what I want to explain is, part of the whole idea behind investing with a purpose isn't that you work every day to save money, right? But a lot of people think that then they feel bad. They have to give the money away to help somebody, but then they don't have anything for themselves. So the whole premise is to say that we work hard and diligently to make money. We save this money, and as we invest the money from the profits that it generates, then we start making a difference in the lives of other people. That is how you develop a sustainable investment business model that allows you to make money, which is okay, by the way, to make money, but it gives you the power now from the profits to make a difference around the world. And that's really the key. Now, as a company, that's part of our mission and our goal is to influence and feed nations. And before I give you this update in particular, understand that it doesn't mean that we're only going around the world and we don't care about our own home. We do have projects, and we're part of several boards that specifically make an impact in our local space. So we do believe in helping our own, but we also believe that if we're only thinking about ourselves, once again, we forget about the whole purpose of being able to make an impact globally. So with that said, I want to go back to introducing our main core mission. But one of the things that I want to kind of bring everybody to mind is that, you know, over the last 2 years, as the company was growing and trying to figure out what we were going to do as we were scaling, we made a lot of mistakes, you know, as we're learning on how to build the right people. That's why we're being so selective about who else we bring to the team. We're completely changing the standard in which we hire, even because of those mistakes that we made. Now, as a part of that journey, we had a lot of great memories. But now imagine you're starting a new year. We're about to launch a third fund. We're really excited about this new vision. And then everybody gets hit in the face with COVID-19. And all of a sudden, everything changes. Your whole business model changes. You're just hoping to God that you can survive, right? We're in fact just grateful and thankful and humbled about the fact that we're even bringing on new team members right now when most people are firing everyone. And I really believe, guys, that part of the reason why we have been under this level of protection and supernatural provision is because of this purpose. I do believe that God has blessed us and protected us, and we're going to continue to align ourselves with that purpose so that we can thrive while others are gone. That's really the reality. So, but I will admit that for the last, since I would say even February, any mission projects that we were a part of, we basically just stopped. Now, to a degree, it's kind of justifiable. I mean, there's no certainty. We don't know what's going on. And so why would we put money into something when we don't even know if that's going to impact us long term? But what I notice is, and as I shared this update with you, is that if anything, this should be the time that we actually get more purpose-driven as opposed to just focusing on trying to survive. And I know that it sounds counterintuitive, but when you're really doing something with a purpose, that is what transcends everything else. That's what makes what we do better, bigger, and more exciting than anything that we do just at a regular job. So what I'd like to do today is give you guys kind of a backstory of a project that we got involved with a couple of years ago, give you an update of where we are, and kind of give you a goal that as a team, if we work together, we will be able to achieve this goal and make a big difference together, okay? So what I want to do first is I would like to kind of give you a timeline. And one of the things that I want to kind of share with you is back in 2018, as the company was scaling and we were focusing on going to the next level, a friend of mine who was at the time was the CEO of Feeding Children Everywhere came to the office, and we were having a conversation. And what he had no idea that morning I had been praying and asking God to give us a new opportunity. Nobody had any idea what was going on. And what's funny is I didn't even know he was coming to my office. And in fact, it was brought, I think, Steve, you're the one who brought that meeting over, and you invited this gentleman about a completely different investment opportunity and just happened to invite me to this project. And as we were sitting there, when Dave Green at the time pulled over to the parking lot in our old office, he was literally trembling because a new opportunity had just come to him. And he was really scared because it was a very serious project. And what was unique is, as we were sitting in the boardroom in downtown Orlando having a conversation, as he was talking, I was sitting here going, I just prayed about this. This is unbelievable. And what I shared with him is what he prayed in the car, saying, God, if this is the project I need to go to, bring someone or tell me what to do. And so it was really interesting how literally we were able to encourage one another. And that's how this very project was birthed. And it was 2018. Now, the beginning part of this project was that, I don't know if you guys are familiar or have heard in the news, but over the last few years, Sudan has had some ridiculous wars, civil wars going on. And I mean massacres. And in a minute, I'll share with you some of those stories because I actually got to meet some of the people that were a part of those stories. But what was happening is the UN had put together a fund to actually finance and try to provide aid for these particular people that are actually literally going through hell. There's no other word for it but that. And the problem is they have a massive deficit, not only in medication, but they can only literally afford to provide about a meal a day to the refugees that were in Uganda. So just imagine being a mom and having 3 kids that you're already dealing with PTSD, right? Because you don't, I mean, you just saw your family members get killed and now you can barely survive off of 1 meal a day. That's all that the actual UN could provide based on their humanitarian programs. And so obviously Dave Green, being the actual CEO of a nonprofit organization and trying to put together some resources, that we have to get as much food as we possibly can immediately. And so the goal became to actually buy, prepare, and ship over 300,000 meals to begin to help supplement some of the current immediate needs. Now, to give you some pictures, we definitely responded to the call. And as a team, for those that were still here back then, we worked together as a team and we wore some really awesome gear, as you can see with Luis's hairnet. He really sported that well. But we were able to work together to meet the goal of buying, packaging, and shipping over 300,000 meals to Uganda. Now, we try to time the trip because part of the other portion of what we knew that this project in particular that we were working on was specifically going to help meet the needs, but we knew that it's like dropping literally a cup of water in the ocean with the need that is there. There's over 1 million people that are stuck. 300,000 meals is nothing in comparison. But we wanted to physically go there, assess the situation, see if we have local partners and assets that we can do something that will be long lasting after we were gone. And so we decided to send these meals and ship them out. Long story short, just so that you guys know, this was a great project for those that were here. If you guys remember, it was an awesome thing to actually package the meals and knowing that there was such a big need and being a part of that just from here in Orlando. But what was really unique was I hope that within 6 months, the actual meals would arrive. And because of some diplomatic issues, we were delayed by almost a year because of it. And so the meals didn't arrive during the time that we were supposed to go. We were trying to time it where we would go, deliver all of those meals, and then meet with the locals, get an assessment of what was going on. But unfortunately, that was not the case. So a year later, in 2019, we set off to Uganda ourselves as a team to actually go and assess the situation. But knowing that the food and the packages hadn't arrived yet, what we wanted to do was to actually go with the local teams, find out if the leadership team that was there, the boots on the ground, if you will, if they would have the actual resources to be able to support any aid long term. Because a lot of times, I'm sure you guys have heard of the stories where people donate money, the money disappears, nobody gets help. We wanted to make sure that what we invested in would actually have support. So we physically went to Uganda. And let me tell you that that was a very humbling and sobering experience, because up until that time, I had been to various mission projects in different parts of the world, but I had never been to a place where you can see this right here on the screen, where we're walking down, and this is supposed to be a city, so this is actually a better part of town. And this is your sewage. It just flows down the little piece next to the houses. So there's literally not even an actual sewer system in the area. So you can imagine the smell, and you can imagine kids running there barefoot. That's just a part of life. And that was actually the actual need. So what we did is, as we got there and we saw the need, we went out and bought additional food. We started hand delivering some of those packages to the families that were struggling during that particular month, as many as we could find. And then we started heading out to yet another area, which, to be honest with you, being in that section alone, I mean, it was poverty at its worst. And to think that they were telling me, no, this is good. Just wait till we go to Adjumani. I was thinking in my mind, like, is this for real? Like, can it get any worse than where I was just at? I mean, I can't even imagine seeing kids running barefoot through sewage. That's pretty bad. So anyway, as you can see in these pictures here with the fields, when we got to Adjumani, by the way, it was a truck drive for over 8.5 hours. We had this massive monkey as we were crossing the Nile jump on the front of our car, started smashing the windows. I mean, it was like legit. We were going into the woods here. 8 hours driving all the way through these little tiny roads till we got to this area, which is actually the refugee settlement. I don't know if I can move this here for those that can't see it. And so these little huts is where all of these families are living. They've been displaced from their homes. Now, what's interesting and what was really heartbreaking is we had an opportunity to minister spiritually. You know, we prayed with a lot of people. We heard a lot of their needs. We talked to them directly to find out what was the main needs that they had and what happened. This little kid here that I just want you to kind of get a picture for, a lady came up to me and said, sir, I perceive that you are a really powerful spiritual person, and it was just crazy. And she just says, could you please lay hands on this kid? And I said, is that not your son? And she goes, no, it's not my son. During the Uganda situation, as they were all fleeing in Sudan, obviously these rebels came in and started shooting up a town and burning up the village. Well, during that time, there was a little boy crying, and he was crawling, covered in blood, in his parents' blood. And so this lady who randomly has no idea, she's fleeing and running away, and she sees this little baby boy crying, weeping. She notices that mom and dad are just literally dead, and that's where the baby is. So she grabbed the baby, ran off with him, and lo and behold, now she's the new mom of this baby. So this was like a real story. So she asked us to pray for this kid. I can't even describe to you just the tears in our eyes and in their eyes, because they felt like there was hope for the first time. It was absolutely one of the most memorable experiences that I've ever had in my life. And to be honest with you, it was very humbling, because here I am, I'm complaining about little things in my house. And you can see the kid obviously has disabilities, if you see him right here. But he's alive because a lady cared enough to actually grab him and flee with him. And then we prayed with them and learn more. Two of the things that stuck out in this trip, meeting a lot of these people in need, there were obviously a lot of people that were angry. They were really frustrated. They felt like they were wronged, and rightly so. But what transcended that emotion was that every single person there that we asked about what the needs were, they literally kept saying, we don't want a handout. We just want an opportunity to be able to get back to real life. We want to work. We want to provide for ourselves. We don't want a handout. We just don't want to live in these. And I mean, when I say hut, I walked into one, and it is a tiny mud hut. It's foul smells. You can just imagine 6 to 10 of those people will actually jump in and sleep together on the ground. And these little mats that they pulled out for us to sit down. In fact, you can see one of the mats in this little picture here. That's their bed, basically. And the reason why they all kind of snuggle up, if you will, together, and by the way, it's extremely hot. So for 6 to 8 people to be in a mud hut in the middle of the heat, it's not because they enjoy snuggling together and it's cold at night. It's because they only have one of those nets for the mosquitoes that have malaria. And so in order for them to survive and not get bit by mosquitoes at night, they have to sacrifice and sleep. Now, for all of us who have our own bed and have an AC, how many of you guys know when it's really hot and you can't sleep? Yeah? I can take a cold shower if I have to. I can't sleep, right? I need cold air, right? Now imagine snuggling up with 6, 8 people in a tiny little room that's just got nothing but heat because there's a net to protect you. That's the kind of needs that these people have. And yet they were grateful for the hope and the opportunity they were going to have. And so I personally had the privilege of being there, meeting these families, and actually getting to know them and getting their stories. And everyone just wants to be able to go back home, but they can't because their lives are in danger if they go back. Just to give you perspective of how blessed we are to be in a country that we have freedom and we have our own home and we have opportunity. That is the most important thing I could tell you. We have opportunity. So now I said all that because I wanted you to visualize kind of what these individuals were dealing with and what the needs were. And as you can see in this image on the bottom, these guys, for those that were with us packing, these are the boxes that we packed when they finally arrived. They videotaped it from an aerial view, and it was just incredible to see just the masses of people going there, which just showed that unfortunately, even though that's a lot of food, there were a lot of people that went home that day without additional food. and people started sharing, and they were doing whatever they could to make this go in and provide. Since then, another 300,000 meals has already been shipped. But during this trip, part of the reconnaissance work was making sure, do we have a local partner? And to be honest with you, we found an incredible local partner. They're good stewards. They work extremely hard. They really care about these people. There's a gentleman here, actually, who was here in this picture with me praying. I call him Pastor Smiles because the entire time he was just smiling. And you'll see him in a minute in some of the updated pictures. This man, is it okay if I just elaborate a little bit more some of the story? So this man has challenged my faith beyond what I imagined was going to be possible. So I'm going to tell you a story of the day before we got here. So it literally took us, like I said, about 8 hours in this dirt road as we crossed the Nile and went into these. I mean, I literally knew, like, if we get stuck here, I have no clue how to get out of here. It was just, we are committed at this point. So by the time we got to the place, it was so dark. And what the first thing I noticed, you know, like in the evening when it's like the sun is going down, but there's still enough light, but you could tell it's getting dark. As I'm driving in this truck, you literally see thousands of people, women and kids, with these barrels of water over their head. They're walking as fast as they can in the dark before it gets dark to go to their random villages. And I mean thousands. I've never seen that many people. And so the only thing I have as far as, reference to this is like movies, like war movies of all things. And so we finally get to this, what's supposed to be our hotel, and we pull in. But if you can almost visualize this hotel, it's like a big shoehorn kind of thing. It's like a squared off piece. You have to drive through like a little moat, and then they close it in for safety purposes. And all the rooms are basically on the outer parts of the moat or the little hotel. And on the inside is really where they have like the restaurant. And it's like an outdoor space where you sit down and eat. And again, there's fences with barbed wire and stuff all around. So when I'm pulling in, it looks like I'm going to like a war zone. So my heart starts beating a little. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm a short Puerto Rican guy at that. And I'm in this place, it's getting dark. I just saw thousands of people surrounding the area. I just heard all these crazy stories. So I'm like, let me just, so I unpack my bag. I get to my really interesting, humbling room. I was just glad there was water, let's put it that way. It said hot, but there was no hot water. So anyway, I put my bag, and the guy's like, hey, whatever you do, you may want to hang your bag because, again, there's big spiders in this area. And I'm like, oh, great. So I'm like hanging my bag, and we're like, let's meet in 15 minutes, and then we'll just go and we'll sit down and eat dinner. So I'm thinking there's like a little hotel somewhere, like a little restaurant hotel. I walk out of my room, and I look out, and there's a table in like an open field in the middle, and that's really where you eat. So we're sitting down, we're having a conversation, and this is where I'm with Pastor Smiles, and we were supposed to meet 2 ministers/leaders. And these 2 leaders were going to be our guides inside of these Ajumani facilities, if you will, whatever you want to call these refugee settlements. So I get there, and I don't know if there's a picture of him or not in here or not. I don't think so. But there's a guy named Pastor Justin, at least that's the English version of his name. And really, really good guy, like really good guy. I loved him so much. He was such a great guy. And he randomly broke down all the social racial barriers. He looks at Pastor Smiles and he goes, aren't you a white one? And I'm like, what? Because for those that don't know, if you are South Sudanese, you are purple. You're not even black. You're like purple. So he's joking to another black guy saying, you're white compared to me. So I'm like, so what does that make me? So we started joking around. It was really cool. And so then Pastor Smile says the craziest thing. He goes, so where's Pastor, whatever, someone that's going to join us? And then Justin's face completely changed. He goes, you didn't hear, did you? And he's like, no, we were supposed to meet him here. And he goes, he's in jail. And he's like, what happened? He's like, well, we're going tomorrow. In the village, there was apparently a lady that went out there and started helping, donating resources to help people out, kind of like what we were going to do. She started preaching. Well, apparently some miracles began to happen, and people were getting healed. Things were just supernaturally taking place. And the elders who were part of this refugee settlement were not very happy because now the women were not submitting to the men, according to them. And the women were leaving their station to work in order to go to these services and start hearing about the word of God. So they got very upset. They had a big old meeting. Long story short, people got very upset, and they started stoning the lady to death. So just the picture. So I'm sitting here like, is this for real? Like I read this in the Bible in the book of Acts, but I don't know if this is for real. Well, it was really happening. And pastors, the other gentleman who was there, tried to run in to stop it. He also was injured and was unconscious. None of the police ever go in there, by the way. They don't go in till it's over. And so the police came in, they arrested him because he tried to stop what was going on with them. And so he was in jail. That lady was dead. So immediately I called my wife and I said, honey, I just want you to know, this happened. And so be praying for me, just because I'm getting a little nervous now. Like this just got real. This just happened like 2 weeks ago. And this is a really fresh situation. So of course, what does my wife do? She Googles it to see if it's real. And sure enough, it's in the news. And so now she's freaking out. And so I'll never forget this. I looked at Pastor Smiles, and I'm trying to be diplomatic here. I'm sitting here, okay, well, gentlemen, this just happened 2 weeks ago. This is a very serious situation. So I'm curious, what have we learned from the past experience to make sure we don't make that same mistake? And so I'm trying to, in other words, say, I don't know if we want to go here. Why don't we figure it out? Like, what are the hours? Maybe we go in the morning and leave by noon or whatever. And he looked at me and he says, Jesus called me to be here and minister. If it means that I'm going to die by stone, so be it. And I've never met somebody with that kind of faith. It challenged my faith. And long story short, we ended up going to that same area. And so what an amazing blessing it was being there, guys. And getting there, we were fully protected. Nobody tried to attack us. If anything, we actually got the complete opposite treatment. And we were able to really get into the lives of these individuals. I said all that to say that the people they sent out, Pastor Smiles and some of those people, they are so committed to the needs of these people. They're sacrificing the little luxury they have in Uganda to be in these areas specifically, to be there every single day. It's not just that we write a check and we pay somebody. They're literally there every single day helping them. So now that you have a better picture for it, that was 2019. The meals came back, people started eating, and then the sustainability project happened. So to give you perspective, since we were still waiting from 2019, we were having a meeting with Feeding Children Everywhere, and we decided that we could send meals there for 1,000 years, and we're still not gonna meet the need. So what is the solution? The solution is to be able to help these people to be able to fend for themselves. And for now, how do we create jobs? How do we create opportunities so that they can actually take care of each other? So we decided to buy land, and obviously the need is food. Why don't we actually help these individuals by actually buying land, teaching them how to farm the land, start producing crops, so that ultimately they can start sustaining themselves and also start taking some of this food and selling it so they can trade to buy clothing, medicine, and so on and so forth. And so we started with very humble beginnings. What you see here is a picture of Pastor Smiles sowing seeds. I'll show you in a minute, and ultimately the harvest, because there is already a harvest taking place. Let me show you a visual here. So we started with the 20 acres. You can see them here sowing seeds, working the field and working with teams, and ultimately starting to get the harvest. And yes, that is a mom with a baby asleep on her back in the middle of the sun, getting food for their family. So just so you guys get perspective of what the real needs are. So next time we say, I work for my kids, this gives that a whole new meaning. Take them, yeah, no, that kid's 18. Anyway, so again, part of the program too is there's a lot of young men there that are struggling because of PTSD. So you can imagine what some of these people are doing is repeating the same cycle of violence, repeating the same cycle of abuse. So what Pastor Smiles, who is this gentleman right here, actually did is he started taking some of these troubled kids under his arms, and he started training them and equipping them so that they would focus their efforts on something that was productive instead of being there in the woods sitting idle, thinking about what evil thing they're going to do. And so he's been mentoring a lot of the young men, and those are some of the pictures of what you're seeing here. And this is part of what our financial support has got us so far. So it's exciting. It's obviously taking place, and little by little, the self-sustainability program is actually happening, and we're really excited to be a part of it. Now, why did I bring you guys up to date? So here we are now from 2018, from packing meals and shipping them to being in the field, seeing the needs, connecting with the people, partnering with the team that is basically called African Renewal Ministries as a local asset. The reason why is because in 2020, as these guys are working for their second harvest and everybody's excited, funding dried up. And so now they're about to have to abandon these harvests because they don't have financial resources to maintain. Now, do I blame FC? I'm a board member. I understand why the FC project had to stop funding it. So I want to show you some of the financials if you guys are okay with that. So this is the total amount that Feeding Children Everywhere Partnership, which means us, we're part of that, invested from November of 2018. There was a $6,000 investment. February, June, July, August, and November. The reason why, by the way, it wasn't just like one big check. It was a total of $60,000 invested. By the way, look at this. I'm becoming like Luis. There's a little cartoon of me in Africa with kids. So the reason why the $60,000 investment wasn't done up front is because we wanted to make sure, as we were testing the partnership, that they were doing what they said they were going to do. So they gave us a lot of updates, and we were happy with the results. So as you can see, $60,000 was invested. It bought land, and I'll show you in a minute what the sources and uses were. But over the 2-year span, that's literally the only resource they've had in order to make the progress that they've been able to make. And so this is the sources and uses. So if you can imagine, from the very beginning, there were some relief expenses that had to be done. They had to purchase a vehicle. As you can imagine, that area is really rough. We broke the windshield like halfway through on a brand new vehicle. So obviously it's a rough terrain. So we had to get something that actually was feasible for that kind of place. Admin and housing, we had to go ahead and invest in getting a place so that Pastor Smiles and his team could be there and they could move the harvest there, put them in bags and so forth. Which again, these are what I call like one-time expenses. So admin and housing, you also have the community empowerment program, which is part of that money went into the resources to start training some of those men, younger guys that were getting in trouble and repurposing their minds and dealing with what's causing this anger inside. You have office assets, computers and so forth to be able to do updates. The agriculture cost itself, and then of course, so that was a total expenditure of $68,900. As you can see, it's already in the red because ultimately Feeding Children Everywhere switched CEOs, and during that switch, we hit the pandemic, and during the pandemic, funding dropped. So these guys were not getting $1 anymore. So again, wanted you guys to see kind of where it is. So based on what they've had to do currently, they have borrowed funds, which is the deficit of $8,238. The current cost to harvest, otherwise this is a complete waste on the 20 acres of land. So that gives us a total of $14,066. It's what we need in order to save this while we work on a new plan to help them to be sustainable. Now, the only reason why I'm excited about what they've done so far is because they've proven to us that they just need a little bit more time to get to the place where that actual land turns to 40 acres, turns to 100 acres, and it's paying for itself because they can sell some of the food, generate revenue to support the very ministry that they're doing. So I'm excited that this is something that over the next 12 months, 24 months could be self-sustainable based on what they've got. But obviously without the help of someone who cares, this project just dies in the vine and everything we actually gained just disappears. So I wanted us to see what is going on. So these are the needs and the current objectives as a company. So with that said, what I would like to do today is to share with you how we as a team can make a difference and actually change the game here. And so what I want you guys to visualize here is we can work smart as a team and we don't have to work hard in order to provide for them. And so the whole objective here is that if we work together as a team and we close a minimum of 14 transactions over the next basically 60 days, whether it's through loans we deploy capital on, quick turns that we buy and sell, flips, extension fees, and everything else, all of those proceeds combined, or a total deployment of about $3.5 million over the next basically 60 days, would get us to the place where we can actually afford to pay that and give enough money slowly, monthly, to keep the machine going little by little. Again, this is an individual project for us. This is not everything we do, but we recognize that there's a major need right now, so we want to focus that effort on this until they get the breakthrough, and then we can focus on other relief efforts locally and abroad, okay? Now, the solution is we all make more money, right? So if you think about it, the more we sell, the more we start doing business. If you close more business, we make more money individually and as a company, but that also means that then his has the ability to invest approximately 14% of the gross revenue to these kind of care projects to make a difference, which will really help us. There is so I really want us to really visualize all the business we do, from extensions to sales to quick turns for those that are virtually working with us on quick turns. If we move deals and we start transacting on the property, understand that there is literally a face to every dollar that we earn right now. And those faces are right now, currently for this particular project, are sitting in Uganda, hungry, waiting for somebody to help. And so that's really one of the biggest projects that we can do. Of course, if you want to individually support, you can feel free to do that. But I'm not here to do an offering and pass out a hat and say donate. what I want you to do is to commit with me and double down on every single department's efforts. Because if we generate more revenue and we get more exposure online and we start working as a team, we can generate the business that we just talked about in order to support and save a mission that is worthy like this one with African Rural Ministries. There's also another way that we can do that as we work together. We can build other alliances. So if you're in sales, I would encourage you to maybe set a one-on-one meeting with some of those clients that might be interested in joining forces with us to make a difference. That's another way we can do it. You can spread the word with humility. I don't want us to use this as an opportunity to look at how great we are, that we're helping these people in Uganda. That's not the way it is. But to say, did you know there's a need in Uganda? And because of COVID-19, any global support is basically just down the window right now. So they're by themselves. And so as a business, we're committing to make a difference. You can join us if you want to learn how. And then lastly, of course, we're going to be doing several posts and updates in social media to create awareness. And so we ask that every one of you, when we post those, you'll share them and actually open the eyes of people so that they can get exposed to what we're doing. Okay. The reality is, if it was just loans, we just have to average $255,000 per loan. Luckily, we don't have to do that. It's a combination. For quick turns, we'd have to do approximately $12,000 on average per deal. And that basically means that a monthly average of 7 deals a month for the next 60 days would help us to actually hit the goal. Now, the good news is that we have 2 operating partners that are with us right now, Tracy, and I also have another gentleman, Justin, that you guys know, who are on board, and they're going to put their efforts as well to work with us on this project. So we're going to get some deal flow, and then we're going to work really, really diligently to move that deal as quickly as possible to start supporting these organizations while we're also making more money. So the solution here, guys, is we make more money, we solve the problem, which means that we work together, we all make more money, and we invest in these projects. So with that said, I want to open it up to any comments or questions or any statements regarding this update, because I'm wrapped up here pretty much. You guys are the key guys. So I will open it up for any comments or questions.
I just think it's great. You know, we all struggle with first world problems. So helping people in another nation with problems that we can't even comprehend sometimes, I think it's just something I'm excited to be involved with.
Absolutely. 100%.
Is there a way that we can, you know, we always talk about having a vision board. Is there a way that we can show where we're headed, like a thermostat, you know, increasing, right? We've done this, we've done this, we've done this to keep us compelled, to keep us engaged on a regular basis, and to keep us moving and pushing the envelope forward on this. We all have the heart to want to do this, and oftentimes we're just stuck doing, you know, we're doing what we're doing and we're not paying attention. But if we can have that visual on a regular basis to say, hey, here we're at, we're here, guys, and, you know, a little bit more pushing, and then this takes place. I think that gets us, you know, just gets us deeper into this, you know, each one of us, right? We know that we're part of an organization that is benevolent and cares for what goes on in the world, but we often lose sight of that. So how do we keep this as a focus?
Great point, Sam. Actually, we were talking about setting up a scoreboard, is what I call it, or a dashboard here in the office. It might be the old school ones that you get the markers and you mark them up, but we want to do that and put together a visual of all the team members involved. So as we hit the goal individually, you can see that your contribution is actually being a part of the overall goal. So you're right. It might take a couple days to get that done. I was going to talk to Yara about that. I don't know if she's here today, but between Jocelyn and Yara and I, we're going to put together a visual board, and we can put that together for sure, so everybody can see it. And in our meetings, we'll start with showing where we are so that we can hit those goals for sure.
Awesome.
So good input, Sam. Awesome. Anyone else? Comments, questions? Everybody's quiet, man. I hope you didn't get depressed.
Well, and then when we launch and go live with fund number 3, we're gonna implement a few other philanthropic ways to help locally as well. So you guys will know about that. So we're not just helping. Of course, it's great to help somebody on the other side of the world that has bigger problems than the ones we have here in the United States, but that nonetheless, that doesn't take away from the problems we have locally in our neighborhood. So we've been talking, and we're very conscious about the issues that we have in our neighborhood, and also within the families of all of you guys. So anyway, that's something we definitely have in mind, and we're putting together for the launch of fund number 3. So we'll keep you guys informed on that.
Exactly, 100%. Yeah, there's definitely other projects we're working in the wing. Just for those that don't know, we have a group called Community Hope Center. They're actually right out of 192 in Kissimmee, and they deal with homelessness. And so we're a huge part of that. And hopefully we'll be able to negotiate the purchase of a hotel there to actually create a new program to help them. So we're doing that. So you're Luis, absolutely 100%. And also with Feeding Children Everywhere, we are packaging some meals, which leads to one little seed I want to drop locally. When you look at the Feeding Children Everywhere developed a program about 1.5 years ago called Full Carb. It's a really cool program. It's helped thousands, literally thousands of people. And what it is because of the amount of food that they can get that's really affordable, they're able to package foods that are non-perishable. You can make it's got mashed potatoes, you have, you name it, all kinds of meals that are put together from oatmeals and everything else. And for less than $15, you can ship basically 100 meals to somebody in their home and it gets there within 2 days. So it's pretty cool. And they started doing that. There are big insurance companies have started investing, thousands and thousands of dollars. I think we got a grant for $1 million from one insurance company to get that developed. The only problem is, if you look at the cost, so the cost of meals to be shipped off to families here, imagine a single mom that's working, she doesn't have a lot of babysitting support. 100 meals makes all the difference that month for her to be able to afford to survive, just to be able to make it. And so anyway, long story short, out of the $15 fee that they charge for it, $7.50 goes to the actual shipping cost. And so what we're planning on doing, I'm going to be meeting with the board, and at least for the shipments going here in Orlando and potentially in Tampa, if we volunteer at least once a month to all drive our cars and drop off and deliver some of the food, that'll more than double their ability to actually send out even more meals to other families just by showing up and dropping off some of these meals. So that might be one of the other projects that we'll be, inquiring about and seeing if we can do it. So just want to throw that seed. That's a local impact as well. And it's the same group that's with us out there in Uganda. So awesome. So any more comments, questions? Does everybody have the picture of why we're here today? Right? If you guys see this, if we just do our jobs with excellence, we can literally change the lives of people all over the world. And you guys are a huge part of that. So remember, you are the key. Let's step up. Let's take full ownership of what we do. Let's try to expand. 14 projects or $3.5 million over the course of 60 days is really not that much business. So let's create awareness. Let's work together and let's make a difference. And I think we're going to hit that goal. And I'll get back to you guys, Sam. We'll definitely create a nice visual board for this particular project as well. Cool?
Great.
Awesome. So with that said, guys, thank you so much. Hope you guys enjoyed today's update, and we're looking forward to working together to make it happen. Bye, cutie. She's so cute.